like equal probability of sampling, then I will get unbiased standard error. Then using disproportionate stratification mean I will have to have weight on my sample to correct for the unequal probability of selection. Is that clear? Question? Then, like I mentioned before, proportional stratification, since everybody has equal probability of selection, and that compared to them, I will call that a self-weighted, and I expect that to lower my standard error if I have proportional stratification. This proportional stratification, I'm not sure about the effect. The effect probably might be increasing or decreasing precision. That will depend of the variance of the oversample stratum. Then I'm using weight also, and I know that weight will increase the standard error because I'm using weight because I have disproportionate. It's not really defined what will be the final effect. We know because it's disproportionate. Stratification is good because it will decrease my standard error, but disproportionate stratification come with using weight and come also with the oversampling of the minority group. That will depend on the characteristic of the variance within the oversampling of this minority group to know what will be the final effect on the standard error. That means it can be both in this case when we have disproportionate stratification. Now, the other element, clustering. How can we clustering is really close to stratification. This is sometimes I have not difficulty on explaining to people what a cluster, what I'm understanding by clustering, because it's pretty similar than stratification. Stratification, we divide it by group, but they have to be group that is naturally occurring in the population. It's not something that I will create artificially. Then we divide it by region. The region are well established, everybody know about them. We divide it by gender. Those are standard everybody use. We can divide it by ethnic group. Those are standard that people use. But cluster will be creating unit within the stratum. Let's say I stratify, I'm doing the survey of Kentucky, I stratify by region, but when I'm doing the sample of each of the region, then I'm selecting county, I'm selecting the county, I'm selecting the block, I'm selecting the neighborhood until I get to the household. This is clustering. This is clustering because I'm selecting smaller unit within the stratum. But this smaller unit, there's sometimes a unit that also are available. If I use the census to do my sample, the census already have estimate the divided the region by county, divided the region by census block, and divided the region by the block, and until we get to the household level. Those are things I can get access to them. Those when I'm doing that is good for me because the cost of doing the sample will be lower. This is Before everything was done online, all the survey was face to face. Them sending people face to face to interview people in different places were costly. Then what you have to do is cluster them. Then instead of going to all the county of the Eastern Region, I can select which county I can go, select within the country which block, census block I want to visit. That way, the transportation cost will be lower and doing the survey will be faster. But whenever we selecting this smaller unit, there will be homogeneous between them. Let's say I'm selecting the block, I'm selecting the county. People within a certain county will probably share some similar characteristics. If I go further down, I'm selecting the block. Within the same block, people are probably of the same socioeconomic characteristic. People have the same ideology or vote for the same party. Things like that. People have similar characteristics. Then in the cluster, people have similar characteristics, and that creates a problem because the problem will be, let's say I have to interview 20 people on the block, but these 20 people share the same characteristics, similar characteristics. If I'm asking them for the income, they share the house is almost the same, and they all work in the same, probably at UK and things like that. They all share similar income level. They are on the same income bracket. Then why interviewing all 20 of them? Because I can interview 10 of them and get the same information. Let's say if you are in the same cluster, you don't give that much information for being in the sample because you share the same similar characteristic of people, then you're lowering the amount of information I can get within this cluster because they're homogeneous, they share the same information. Then that's become, my sample become less efficient because I'm not getting the amount of information I wanted because I'm interviewing 20 people that are, I don't say, they're not equal, but they're very similar. Then the amount of information I'm getting from them are not that great, that efficient. Then this is why that will increase my values. Yeah, you say it's all very technical. It's like, because I'm taking cluster, I expect the information are not independent because they share similar characteristics, they're homogeneous, they share similar characteristics. They will provide me less information than if I had, let's say, sample random sampling. I will have less information per person at the cluster level. And by doing that, that's a sample that is less efficient. That will create an estimate of the values. Then I will.
Can you say something about the confidence intervals?
Yeah. Now we will see why. Let's see the math of it and see why I'm saying that will increase the variance. Then, okay, we know they're similar, they add less information, but the design effect within the cluster will be based in this element. One of the is the size of the cluster and the homogeneity within the cluster. Then the design effect is this component. Like B, if you see B, that is the size of the cluster. The cluster. The bigger the size of the cluster, the higher will be yes, the higher will be the design effect. If I have small cluster, it's better than having big cluster. Remember, having more people don't give me more information. They give me less information because of the homogeneity between them. And this is the intra-class correlation. That's really a new concept. We will define that later on. Then the inter-class correlation is something that will be always positive, is something that is naturally occurring within the sample. It's because of the tendency of self-selection of people. People with money live in the same neighborhood. Then people with educated people live in the same neighborhood. Then they will share some attitude. They will share the same level of income. They will share this naturally occurring phenomenon within the cluster that I call that is create the homogeneity within the cluster. This is why I call the intra-class correlation. It can depend of many things that will create this intra-class correlation.